Struggling to work out which premiums to select for your FPL team? Don't worry, this video's got you covered. Stick with me and I'll take you through all the options. Okay, so first up we've got the three premium midfielders being Salah, Kevin De Bruyne and Heung-min Son. I've basically selected premiums, any player that's above 10 million in the game really. Midfielders, we've got Salah, Son and Kevin De Bruyne. And what I've done is I've pulled off their expected return stats per 90 minutes and their actual goals and assist stats as well. So you can see how they stack up against one another. At face value there, you obviously see that De Bruyne has got the highest expected returns per 90 of the three players. But comparing De Bruyne and Salah, who are similar to one another, you can see there that Kevin De Bruyne's expected returns are more weighted towards assists than goals. And in FPL, certainly, obviously goals are more points bearing than assists are. So expected points wise, you could probably suggest that Salah is above Kevin De Bruyne on that regard. But in terms of actual returns, they're pretty similar really. Salah's got his 6 goals and 3 assists, whereas De Bruyne's got his 3 goals and 9 assists. Haven't mentioned Son yet. He's a little bit behind in terms of expected returns there with 0.54 per 90. That's broken down as 0.36 expected goals and 0.23 expected assists. Then his actual returns are actually far lower than the other two. He's only got 3 goals and 2 assists so far this season. And I'm pretty sure those 3 goals all came in one game as well against Leicester. So Son is having a bit of a disappointing season so far, but I do expect him to pick things back up. He's had a little bit of a rest after returning from the World Cup. Hopefully that will help him refine some of his form that we all know and love from previous seasons. And then obviously we've got the fixtures to look at as well. Salah is the only player of these three that doesn't have a double game week, whereas Son and Kevin De Bruyne have their double in 20. I guess one thing you can absolutely say is you'd expect Son to be nailed for both of those games of the double game week, whereas De Bruyne, he will probably start, but you can't be 100% certain. And then Salah obviously doesn't have his double game week, but you can pretty much guarantee that he's going to play all of those games you see there for probably 90 minutes as well. So in terms of fixtures, it's definitely between De Bruyne and Son for who's got the pick there. I think the Spurs fixtures, despite there not being many green ones, I actually think they're pretty decent. Obviously, they've got their double in 20, and then the rest of the fixtures, bar the Man City one in 22, are pretty good. Same for Man City, really. They've got more green than Spurs do. I think their fixtures are pretty good as well, with a few difficult games mixed in there. But I think De Bruyne has showed in the past that he can perform against any level of opposition. And then Salah, I know he doesn't have his double, but that fixture run is really nice. The only tricky game there, I would suggest, is probably the Chelsea one. The rest of them, you could definitely see Liverpool scoring goals and Salah getting amongst the returns. It's hard to say if there's a best option, really. I think there are pros and cons to each of them. Based on what's happened in the past this season, I think Salah and De Bruyne are the standout too. Who you pick between them is 50-50, really, in my opinion. Salah, he's more weighted towards goals. His expected points are probably higher, but he doesn't have the double in 20, whereas Kevin De Bruyne does. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Salah for 17, 18 and 19. And if I don't have any fires to put out in my team, I might move him on to either De Bruyne or Son even for the double, because I think you really need to take advantage of these double game weeks when they come. So I think that's my plan, but hopefully that's enough stats there and information to help you select who you think is the best premium in midfield. All right, so moving on to the strikers, you got 2 premium options for your forward position, and that's Haaland and Kane. To be honest, I don't think there's much argument between these 2 players as to which one is better. Haaland's stats are far and above what Kane is managing to do this season. I actually feel a bit sorry for Harry Kane because he's having one of the best seasons of his career so far. It's just unfortunate that he's being overshadowed by Erling Haaland really banging in the goals for Man City. But yeah, looking into the stats, Haaland's currently on 1.2 expected returns per 90, which is just ridiculous. I don't think we've had a player at this stage in a Premier League season that's holding those numbers. I don't know what Salah's numbers exactly were for his Premier League goal scoring record season, but I think Haaland's are probably better at this stage. So for that reason, I think you just absolutely have to have him in your team. And for the next couple of game weeks, he's probably the best captain as well. Maybe as we get into double game week 19, where the likes of of Chelsea and Fulham have a double, maybe there's a different option there. But certainly for the first two, I think Haaland is the standout pick and the standout captain. And yeah, the stats are there to see. He's got 1.2 expected returns per 90, 0.96 expected goals, 0.24 assists, and he's got 18 goals already this season, which is just ludicrous, and 3 assists as well. And I think that's a really nice fixture run as well. Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, 19 and 20, a little bit tough, but I still foresee Man City scoring in those games. I just think Erling Haaland, it's not much of a surprise. He's an absolute lock in your team. Harry Kane, I think, is probably best to compare him to the midfielders, the top midfielders that I've showed previously. And that's certainly one I'll have a look at next. So we'll compare Kane, Salah and De Bruyne next. But just looking at his stats on face value, 0.8 expected returns per 90, 0.64 expected goals, 1.6 expected assists, 12 goals and 1 assist at this stage this season. And then looking into his fixtures, there's not a lot of green in there, but I actually think they're quite nice fixtures. Starting off with Brentford away, Villa, Crystal Palace, Arsenal and Man City as a double in 20. They might appear difficult fixtures on face value, but I think the way that Spurs like to play on the break, on the counter-attack, against teams that play a high line, which I think Man City and Arsenal do, I could definitely see goals in that game and returns for Harry Kane. So I think he's still a really nice option, despite what the fixtures may say. Some people might say they've got slightly weaker fixtures, but I think they're pretty good. That clears it for the strikers. We'll move on now to the Kane comparison with Salah and Kevin De Bruyne. And as I was saying, I think it's a little bit unfair to compare Harry Kane to Erling Haaland like for like. I just think Erling Haaland is having such an exceptional season. He's such an exceptional player that he sort of has his own bracket in FPL of untouchable. I think he's really the one player that everyone should just lock in their teams for the time being. He's having, one of the greatest seasons I think we've ever seen in the Premier League. So I think it's more fair to compare Kane to the two best midfielders, in my opinion, and that's Mo Salah and Kevin De Bruyne. On face value, at least, looking at these stats, Harry Kane leads the way in terms of expected returns. Breaking it down a bit more, slightly more expected goals than Mo Salah, but I think the fact that midfielders score more points for goals than strikers, I think they're probably quite even in terms of the expected goal stats. Kevin De Bruyne obviously has got more expected assists, but I think he probably loses out on the expected returns just because Salah and Kane lead the way in terms of expected goals, and obviously goals are more points yielding than assists. So I think Harry Kane and Salah are definitely comparable. And then moving on to the actual returns, Kane takes the lead in terms of actual returns to Salah. He's got 12 goals to Salah's 6. In terms of fixtures, I think certainly for the first 3 game weeks, Salah probably takes the lead on that. I think Villa, Leicester, Brentford probably, for Liverpool at least, are probably better than Brentford, Villa, Palace, although I think it's really close. But I just think Salah plays for a better attacking team as well, and he's more likely to score some goals in those games. But when you get on to 20, obviously De Bruyne and Kane sort of take the lead in terms of the fixtures because they got a double. And I just think that's better than Salah having one fixture against a really good Brighton team. So I don't really think there's an answer to who is the best asset in this position. I don't think there's a clear winner. I think it's down to you really to pick the best option based on the stats that I'm showing you here, because I think expected returns per 90, actual returns in the fixtures are the key things that you need to review in order to pick the best FPL option. So hopefully that's enough information there to help you decide which of these premiums to pick. I certainly think the best 3, the best 3 bar Haaland, of course, is Salah, De Bruyne and Kane. And really, it's up to you to pick who you think is the best of these lot to go alongside Erling Haaland. And that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed that. I haven't seen too many people comparing the premiums as I've done there, so hopefully that's a bit unique for you, sort of breaks the mold in terms of FPL videos and actually helps you make a decision on which of the premiums to pick. If you did like this video, please make sure to give me a like, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, and I'll have more FPL content coming your way ahead of the deadline. I'll catch you in the next video.